Thank you so much for watching, and big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. If you would like to see your name listed in the credits of all of my videos, go to patreon.com/discgolfnerd. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to answer questions from you guys. These were submitted to me through my 7,000 subscribers giveaway contest. There's a spot in the Google form for you to leave me a question or a comment. I also want to let you guys know that I read every comment, every question throughout there. Almost 350 people entered. Many of you had comments or questions for me, and I really appreciate it. I got choked up a couple of times reading through them because there are a lot of really nice, heartfelt messages from my viewers, just thanking me for what I do, or telling me that, you know, they love particular discs that I've recommended, and they really appreciate my tips and information. And a lot of people saying that they're beginners and they're new to the game and that I helped them. And that's extremely rewarding for me to hear, because that was basically what I want. That's what I'm hoping to accomplish, is I'm trying to help you guys out. I want you to understand disc golf better. I want you to have more fun and feel like you are informed and knowledgeable about the game, and you're going into it with an intelligent thought process and like understanding of what you're doing, and you're not just out there just flip-flops and a can of beer, just chucking a Frisbee around. There's nothing wrong with that. That's great. But I just want you guys to know, like, what you're doing, how to control your discs, and how to like kind of maximize your fun by knowing what's going on. I think that's where it really became addictive for me, is when I started to understand how my discs were reacting, how to control them, how to get them to do different things. And that's when the game really cemented itself as something that I love to do, is when I was able to start that understable disc on hyzer, but I know if I throw it hard, it'll roll over and still turn over, and etc. You know, I can throw this disc on this angle and this can happen. And when you start to learn that, and then you execute those shots how you want them to fly, and everything comes together, it just feels so good. That's what I'm really hoping to accomplish, is just to let you guys know more about the game. And I'm never really going to be the guy who's going to get out there and show you how to throw. I don't think my form or technique is really that good. It's not terrible. Like, I understand what I'm doing. I think I have decent timing, and I can throw on the lines I want most of the time. But still, you're just much better off learning from somebody who's really high level in terms of form and that kind of specific technique-based stuff. But I'm really rewarding and really happy to hear that my tips and information videos have been effective and have helped people out. That just makes me really happy. And a lot of nice comments from folks that have been viewers for a long time. And I just wanted you to know I appreciate it very much. I read every single comment that came through. I had already read a bunch of them when I was looking through to choose winners. Even though I chose them randomly as always, but as I was looking through there to make sure there were no like duplicate entries and stuff, I read a bunch of the comments in there. And then last night I actually trimmed out all the ones that didn't have comments, and I have, I think, let me take a look here at my file. I have over 100. I think I have like, probably 115 or so questions from viewers, and these are going to go in alphabetical order according to the name on the form, and we're going to get into it. So just wanted to say one more time, thank you so much for all the kind words, all the positive messages, and I really appreciate you guys, and I will continue to do my best to give you more content. I got to figure out some more tips and beginner information videos to put out there, because I feel like those are having the impact that I wanted. And as much as I love doing the reviews, it allows me to have a steady stream of content to put out there for you guys, to make it worth your while to be a subscriber, that I have something to consistently put out. But I do need to figure out some other things. I'm sure there are some things I can think of that I can put out there that might be helpful to newer players. So stay tuned for that. I'm definitely working on that. I got the message loud and clear reading through these comments that a lot of people liked that type of content, that was having the impact that I wanted it to, and I definitely hope to be able to continue to do that. I'm also hoping to hook up with some high-level throwers that can give you guys some technique advice as well, and that's something I'm looking forward to trying to do into the fall and the winter. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully we can make that happen. I've been in contact with a few pro-level players that can give you guys some more technique-based advice that I think will be helpful. All right, without further ado, let's get into some of these questions, starting alphabetically. And the first one's from Aaron Kirchner. Oh, yeah. One more. Wait, a little bit more ado. So, before I get into these questions, as always, I'm really sorry if I mess up anybody's names. I have a lot of European viewers, and sometimes it's just kind of difficult to guess as to how these names are supposed to be pronounced. I'll do my best. I mean absolutely no disrespect if I totally butcher your name. That is not intentional. I'm going to try to give it my best shot. If your last name is really really tricky for me, like a Scandinavian name, I might just go with your first name. But yeah, again, absolutely no disrespect meant. I'm going to try my best, but it's always a little bit tricky, especially when I have 115 different names to try to pronounce. I'm not going to do all these questions today either. All right, without further ado, let's get into the questions. First one from Aaron Kirchner. What would be a good roller disc? Love the content. Keep up the great work. Roller discs. Depends on what you're trying to do. You can throw really flippy discs for rollers if you want to get them down a little bit later in the flight, like you want to start it pretty flat, let it fly a little bit, and then kind of late turn and get down to the ground. More understable stuff is generally better for rollers for most players. Things like Valkyries, Roadrunners, Sidewinders from Innova. My two go-to roller discs, I have a few different discs I will throw for rollers, personally. Latitude 64 Fury is my like kind of quick flip roller. If I want it to get down the ground and move right, it's a very understable disc, so I can get it down on the ground quite easily. I have had success throwing rollers with the Sting. That's also a very understable disc, easy to get down onto that roller angle. I don't have the strongest Anheuser release, so I like a little bit more flippy disc to help me get it down on the right angle most of the time. I will also roll occasionally with an Escape. That one I have to throw on a steep angle to get it down and to get it to roll personally. But I find it's more stable when it gets on the ground, and it will hold that line a little bit longer without rolling out to the right. My go-to distance roller disc is an ESP Thrasher, 165-gram ESP Thrasher that is flat top, extremely understable, and is very easy to get down on a roller and will hold and roll for quite a while. So those are my go-tos. But really, and then even for forehand rollers, you like a more overstable disc. So there's lots of different types of discs that can work well for rollers, but most people like a very neutral to understable disc for their rollers, depending on your power as well. Because if you throw with more power, you can use a little bit more stable disc and still get it to get down on that angle, and you'll probably be able to roll the disc much farther. We've seen like Simon can roll discs that are probably not even understable at all. Like I think he rolls like a PD2, which is crazy. I could probably barely get it to turn much, and he can get it down on that roller and throw gigantic, just unbelievable rollers because of that. So it really depends on your arm speed as well. Alan Strimbu asks, who is your favorite disc golfer to watch play? Ricky Wysocki, hands down. Enough said on that one. You guys know, most of my long-term viewers know that already. Alexandra Arpe, a new follower here. What is your most important disc? What is that never fails me, trustworthy, bad day saving disc? Probably, if we're going to say trustworthy, that would be the Caltrup. I have a soft Caltrup in my bag. I know exactly what it's going to do, and every time I need to throw a shot that gets close to the basket from a certain range, I can't throw it super far. But for all of my kind of approach shots, I've discovered recently that I actually consider it a layup disc rather than an approach disc, because I'm just always putting it next to the basket. I mean, it just does the job so well. So anytime I'm trying to not really go for the shot, but I want to get it close and within a certain range of the basket, the Caltrup is absolutely that disc. And it is definitely probably my most trusted disc in my bag, that I know exactly how it's going to react and behave. All I really have to do is just aim it out to the right a little bit, throw it strong, and it always hooks up and lands next to the basket. It's soft plastic as well, so it doesn't skip or roll. It really grabs the ground, and absolutely love and trust that disc very much. Andy Klinger says, thanks for all you do. I've been a subscriber since the very early days. I think I subbed to your channel after Spin TV and CCDG, and that might have been before Jomez's first coverage from Texas States. Keep it up. I like seeing you throw on camera, too. Thank you so much, Andy. I appreciate your long-term support. That is wild. My channel probably is older than Jomez, isn't it? I wonder. I think so. I think you're right. That's interesting. I didn't even think of that. Never really thought about that. Antonio Mateo Ramos. Tips for new disc golfers, myself included, for throwing nose down. Seems like if I slow down my wind-up, I can keep the disc flat, but if I throw harder, faster for distance, the disc goes straight up in the air. That happens a lot. I find a lot of players kind of over-exaggerate the speed when they're trying to throw farther, trying a little bit too hard, and it's likely that you're going to mess up nose angles, release angles, when you're kind of really trying to get on it. Probably be more successful keeping it a little bit slower and just work on hitting the angle the exact way you want to. And as your timing and technique improves, you'll probably be able to throw farther without even really having to increase the speed very much. You know, we've seen lots of pro players that don't seem like they're doing much, and the disc comes out with a lot of energy and flies really far. And that's true across the board for many sports. You know, if you see a high-level golfer, they don't look like they're really swinging the club as hard as they can. The technique comes through perfectly, and they make good contact with the ball, and that's what puts the energy on that shot. So disc golf is the same way. As far as specific tips for throwing nose down, I don't really know what to tell you on that one. But it sounds more like you're throwing it up, nose up, and also maybe putting too much hyzer on it when it is when you're trying to go for more distance. One of the things I would say is maybe try a little bit more understable disc. I'm not sure what you're throwing, but if you throw a little bit more understable disc, you can stay low and release it on a little bit of hyzer angle with that nose down, and then let it kind of pop up and go. Might be easier for you to stretch some distance than trying to throw a more stable disc perfectly flat, where your angles might kind of get messed up there. But without seeing it, it's kind of hard to say, and making sure I throw nose down is something I'm always working on, so I can't really help you too much on that one. Sorry. Austin Petrie asks, it's just a comment. Love the vids. Would just like more consistent uploads with reviews having multiple people throwing. I will try my best on that one, Austin. I don't know. You know, it's not always possible for me to have multiple field testers. I can always, throw the shots myself and then have one of my other field testers with me. That's likely. But occasionally I don't necessarily have the footage of me throwing because I'm trying to concentrate the time I have to film on filming the other throwers like Andy or Connor's been helping me out now, or James or Jason Harden, other people I've used throughout the years. But I appreciate the feedback. I did leave a few just comments in here just because I thought they would be fun to read on the show. Benny Eltson, I've been wanting a side-by-side flight comparison of the 3 base mold Innova, i.e. Leopard versus Leopard 3, T-Bird versus T-Bird 3, dome versus flat top. I wonder how that affects the shot shapes. Not a drawing of the line, but one player throwing both discs comparatively. Thanks for all you do. That would be fun. It'd be interesting. I'd have to get all those discs in stock. But I will say it does seem like the flatter Leopard 3, T-Bird 3, basically they are typically a little flatter, a little faster, and a little bit less glide, a little bit more stable. Is what it seems to be from my testing of those discs. I think I've reviewed a lot of those various molds, but I'm not super familiar with regular Leopards or T-Birds, to be honest. Never really discs I ever connected with. I did have a DX Leopard a long time ago. Long time ago. I think I lost in a pond. Billy Eldrith. Love the content. Thanks for all your hard work. Please address the Latitude 64 reductions to the line when they are announced in August. That was much later than August. After the sale information you gave out recently, I can see a restructuring of the trilogy soon. I kind of touched on this quite a bit on my last episode, so I'm not going to go too far into it now, other than to say that I'm sad, of course, that the Gobi's gone. I will continue to throw them because I have a whole bunch of them. I don't really think many people are going to be too upset about the Misselin or the Rakuten. We have not seen any of their next wave of retired molds, so I can't really comment on that just yet. And as for the other overmold discs, I'm not personally upset by any of them. I think the Sarek was probably my second favorite that I tested. I didn't really care for the Bryce or the Fuji very much. I didn't really think they did much that a regular disc couldn't do, but I'm hoping very much that we see a disc very much in the vein of the Gobi come out that's just not an overmold in the future. Something that's low profile and kind of a faster mid-range that has almost like a driver-like behavior but has that mid-range feel and distance. That would be fantastic. So we'll see if that happens. Okay, next one. Bjorn Thomas Hotlow. Hi, hope you would send one to Norway, hopefully with your autograph on it. Great channel you have. Watch it a lot. Oh, thank you so much. That's great. Nice to know that I have viewers in Europe for sure. That's awesome. And yes, I can ship to Europe for the giveaways if for some reason where you're located is like going to be very expensive to ship to. I may ask you to help me a little bit with the shipping costs via PayPal or something along those lines, but it hasn't been an issue yet. I shipped a few of the Disc Golf Nerd discs to Finland and Sweden when I had those stamped up, and I think there's some type of flat rate envelope that can go to Europe for pretty cheap, and I think I used that and it worked great. So I got to figure that out again if I ever need to ship to Europe. But yeah, I can definitely hook that up. If you enter and you win and you're from Europe, I will make sure you get the disc. Okay, Bob asks, can you get a company to make decent discs out of recycled plastic from the ocean's trash islands? That's an interesting idea. I don't know. I don't think like just using a whole bunch of recycled plastic material you could make a good quality disc out of that. Maybe something kind of baseline-ish could be possible. I don't really know. On a completely unrelated note, something that I would like to see is like one of our manufacturers to make a disc out of basically a biodegradable plastic, like a corn plastic or something like that, a hemp plastic that will break down faster and isn't as damaging and is not going to end up again in the trash island. Because it would be awesome to occasionally have a disc that I could just like throw off a cliff or throw into the ocean or something like that. Every once in a while, I'm at a really high point looking down at a lake or a cliff or something like that. I'm like, man, I would love to throw a disc off of here, but I feel really bad if it was something that was like harmful for the environment. It'd be great to have a disc that would fly okay and be a little understable so you could throw it far, but then like have it break down into something that wouldn't harm the water or something like that. That would be pretty fun. But it's also not a good idea to throw things off of a cliff because who knows who or what might be down below that, you know, it's just kind of stupid. But I thought about that. Out here in Oregon, there's lots of places where you're high up above the ocean or a lake and you're looking down on these valleys. I'm like, man, I'd love to just bomb a disc off of here. That'd be fun. Have you ever thought about making a this one's from Brandon Kehoe. Have you ever thought about making a building the bag series, going over various discs for each potential spot in a bag, straight to fairway, disc A, B, C, overstable, mid-range, etc. Okay. I have thought about that. That's an interesting idea. Maybe I'll look into that. That could be fun. I don't know if I really. Yeah, I don't know. I've thought about doing a series called Battle for the Bag or something like that, where I have discs that are competing for a slot in my bag that I'm testing, and then like to test them in real time and show you guys my process for that. I think that would be kind of fun, but it's just a matter of having a cameraman and the time to do that. So could be something that I do eventually. We'll see. Brandon Lawhon, have you reviewed the Innova Stud? No, I have not. And I left this question in there because I want to just let you guys know that if any point you're curious as to whether or not I've reviewed a disc, I know I have a lot to scroll through and to look for it in there, but I have all of my reviews in one playlist, so you can just scroll through and see every disc that I've ever reviewed. Just go into my playlist on my channel, and all of my different videos should be mostly broken down, categorized there. And the review playlist for sure. At the end of all of my reviews, you'll see the playlist pop up on the end screen. There'll be a subscribe button and also the end screen there that you can just click on that. That will take you straight to the playlist of all of my reviews. Or always just search Disc Golf Nerd and the name of the disc, and if I reviewed it, it'll pop right up on Google or YouTube. Chances are I have, but that is one that I have not reviewed, so maybe I'll look into that at some point. Although I just got, you guys will see in a few days, I just got a box from Yikun with 6 more molds in there, and that coupled with some of the other stuff I still have to review. I got a lot of stuff. I got a lot of stuff to work on. So, okay, Brandon, shoot. Any chance you still do any disc dies? If so, would you ever make an updated version of your old dying tutorials? Congratulations on 7,000 subscribers. I've always enjoyed your the relaxed and enjoyable videos you always put out. Thank you so much. That's great. Well, I did just put out that turmeric dyeing video the other day, but in terms of doing an updated like dip dye or stencil dye video, probably not. I feel like I kind of haven't really done much with that in a long time. I got rid of all my spin dyeing stuff, or I had a record player that I used for a little while, and I traded it to a guy who wanted to get into that. So I don't really have much in the way of dyeing materials. It might be something I get back into eventually, but I kind of, I had fun with that for a while, and then I kind of moved on from it. I never felt like I was really that good at it, too. I would like to do some of the more cool, like, brainwave kind of, like, shaving cream dyes and stuff, and check out some of the new techniques people are doing, and maybe I'll make a video on my findings with that eventually, but who knows? Could be something I do this winter when it starts to rain and stuff. You know, there's not as much time to get out and throw. That could definitely be something that I look to get back into, is more of that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for that. Brian Reshik, have you ever made a video for how a casual player should select the best discs for their abilities? I mean, I've kind of made a lot of videos about that, but maybe not exactly how you're envisioning it. I've definitely made videos recommending lots of different discs. Obviously, all of my reviews, I try to mention who I think the discs are best suited for in those particular videos. But in terms of like how to go about finding the best discs for your abilities, that would be so specific to each individual person. That would be kind of tricky. Maybe if there was somebody local who was kind of new and they were trying to build a new bag or a more complete bag, maybe I could like help them and like walk through that process with them. That could be something that could happen that would be interesting, I think, and maybe helpful, and give you some of the thought process I have in terms of building a bag in general. I do have a podcast episode about building your bag, but it's pretty basic stuff. I mean, it's just kind of trying to fill in all the slots, having all the speed ranges and stability ranges covered in your bag in order to have the most versatile setup that you can have without making it overcomplicated. Is basically what you're trying to do. You just really want something that's will fly understable, stable, and overstable at all the different speed ranges, and then there's a few like more utility style discs that are good to have as well. Brian Smith, Brian Smith asks, do Metal Flake or Lucid clear plastic discs with sparkles tend to be more overstable? Yes. Generally they do, yes. Brian Jenkins, I might suggest having a radar gun on shots. I think that would be the standard in the future. Knowing your arm speed will dictate your disc selection. Okay, that could be interesting. I don't have anywhere in the budget for that, but that would be cool to know the difference between my actual throwing speed and Andy or Connor. I don't think any of us are going to put up any kind of impressive number. Jason Harden probably gets up there. I would imagine he can throw into the 70 mile an hour range, I would have to assume. But other than that, yeah, I don't even know. Mine is probably powerfully unimpressive. That would be something that could be interesting as time goes on. That's kind of stuff like that is kind of what made me finally take the plunge into trying to do Patreon, is that it would be cool to have some income coming in. I see a lot of people make interesting videos that require things like a radar gun or just specialized equipment that costs money. that was part of my thought process with going into the Patreon thing, is that, yeah, maybe we can get to the point where I have some capital coming in that I can use to do fun things like that, like to just take some money and buy a bunch of different discs to do a specific video with, and not have to worry about that funding, because I don't really have much in terms of a strong income personally. Okay, this one's a little bit longer, and it's not really a question. It's something I just wanted to read for you guys. Carl Silyak, I believe. He says, as a fellow disc golf nerd, I just want to say I appreciate all the reviews, plastic podcasts in the bags, and all the videos you do. I work a 12-step recovery program. I'm a recovering heroin addict, and while I have some pretty substantial clean time now, I discovered disc golf when I had just gotten sober. It quickly became the biggest passion I've had since playing the guitar when I was in my teens. I'm 25 now, and it gave me something positive to focus my energy on. It really helped me so much. It's also quite possibly the only healthy hobby I've ever had. So people like you making these types of videos actually helps me out much more than you know. It helps me fuel this healthy passion and keeps me on the path I'm supposed to be on. And honestly, having disc golf in my life just keeps me happier and makes my life better overall. Carl, that's awesome. I appreciate the message very much. And shoot me an email if and when you hear this, discgolfnerd1@gmail.com. I might have something for you. Carter Griffin, I just started playing and I really can't find a good driver / mid-range. Do you have any suggestions? Man, there's a lot. If you're saying like driver / mid-range as in like a good mid-range for throwing off the tee, I'm not exactly sure if you mean a driver and a mid-range, or just like a good kind of control disc that you can throw off the tee. But man, there's so many different options. If you're looking for good, strong tee shot mid ranges, I really like a Buzz. Buzz is a great disc that you can throw in all situations, that will fly quite straight up to speed and then have that consistent little finish at the end of the flight. As you break it in or you throw stronger, you can get it to fly super straight all the way. So that's a good disc. Rocks are great. You know, a nice slightly broken in DX rock is always a great straight flying mid-range that works well. I really like the Prodigy MX3 that just came out. That's a really nice flyer. The Latitude 64 Compass would be an interesting disc for you to check out because it's extremely neutral, a nice basic opto compass, especially some of the older Ricky runs. Will just hold really, really straight. If you throw them flat, they'll hold a soft hyzer. They will turn to the right, so they can kind of help you work on your release angles as a new player. And my favorite mid-range, especially to throw, that has kind of a driver-like behavior and vibe to it, although it is a mid-range, and it is a very controllable, accurate disc, is the Latitude 64 Gobi, but that is unfortunately no longer in production, so I kind of don't recommend you look for them because they are pretty much sold out across the internet. A disc that's similar to the Gobi, just based on stuff I've tested recently, would be a Innova Mako 3. Pretty great straight flying disc as well. There's so many different options out there, but if you just look through my playlist, there's a lot of mid-ranges in there, and you should be able to find some good suggestions. Latitude 64 and Discraft and Innova, I mean, all the companies really do make great mid-ranges, but I love the Latitude lineup. The Compass, the Gobi, the Fuse is a great disc that a lot of people seem to really like. Not one that I have much. I don't think I've ever thrown one actually, but it seems like a lot of people are liking those for really straight shots as well. So yeah, it's hard to really narrow it down unless I have more information as to what type of mid-range you need. That was from Carter Griffin. Next one from Chad Pruitt. Who is your favorite top 3 pro players and why? Okay, number 1 is Ricky. As you guys know, I've just always really liked watching him play. I became a big fan of his when he was competing in the Portland World Championships. I got a lot of time watching him in person. I was really impressed with his game over that entire tournament, falling by just one stroke away from winning his what would have been his first world title in those days. And I remember, just really becoming a strong fan of his throughout that tournament and watching him play. And his incredible forehands, especially in those days. He was a really strong forehand player. His putting and just his overall game really impressed me, and I've been a huge fan ever since. I really like the person he is. He's a really nice guy, and he's very genuine. He doesn't really like put on airs or pretend very much. He is who he is, and he puts that out there, and I like those kind of people. Two more. That's a tough one to say. Back when he was competing more often, I was always rooting for Nate Doss. I like to see him do well. I like his really simple bag system and approach to the game. He's just a great shot thrower and just a really strong player with a great pedigree. He's been around forever, multiple world championships, and I really like Nate quite a bit. He's a very nice guy as well. I've also been able to see him compete in person a number of times. He was always right there for the Beaver State Fling in the early years when I was going. I think he finished second like multiple times and really close throughout. Number 3, I'm going to go with someone a little more recent that I really enjoy watching. He seems like a great person as well, is Kevin Jones. I know a lot of people have become big fans of Kevin over the last couple years as he's been kind of a staple on the tour at this point, and now that he's on Prodigy, we're seeing him kind of out there a lot more in terms of video content and Seppo blogs and stuff like that. So Kevin just seems like a really genuine dude as well. Really easy to get along with. Everybody seems to really like him, and he throws incredible shots. I love his giant power hyzer flip game. Is just incredible. I love watching it. So that's probably my top 3 MPO players, and I'm also a big Paige Pierce fan. I have been for a long time. She's just incredible. I love her. I love her game and her personality as well. She just seems, again, very genuine, and she is who she is. She doesn't seem to put on a lot of airs or that sort of thing. I like those kind of people. I tend to root for them across the board in life. Okay, we're back. I'm glad I looked because I actually ran out of space on my memory card, but luckily I hadn't rambled for too long before I realized it. All right, next question comes from Chad Quillier. Do you have any Z-Line Wasps in your stash, and can I purchase one? Do you know where I can find one? No, I do not, and I'm not exactly sure where to find one. I would go to sunkingdiscs.com. If they don't have them, maybe Disc Golf Center, Infinite, the obvious places to check online. Also, I've had good success on the Disc Golf Throwers, the Disc Golf Throwers Exchange on Facebook. Seems to be pretty fruitful for me most of the time. If I'm looking for something, somebody out there seems to have one. But honestly, overall, it's a little bit of a tangent. I think you guys would be pretty shocked to know just how few discs I really hold on to. I have a Ricky Compass collection that you may or may not have seen on the channel. I'm not sure if I've showed you guys that. Maybe I'll do a show and tell on that eventually, where I basically collected a number of different types of Ricky Compasses over his years playing with Latitude. And I have a few other discs like a Proto Rock 3 and Sexton Firebird and just various a pretty cool Buzz OS I got at the Portland World's Fly Mart, things like that are in my little mini collector's stash. It's only like 1 milk crate worth. And then if I don't hold on to it as like a kind of a sentimental disc, which is just a handful of my older discs, or discs that I keep in case a beginner needs one, like I have some Wombats that I hold on to in case of a beginner wants to come out and play, and some putters and stuff. Other than that, I have my bag, and I have my backup throwers in a milk crate in my back room there that's just like backup Furies, Gobies, etc. I really don't hold on to that much stuff, I think the average golfer probably has more discs laying around than I do. Yeah, I think you guys would probably be surprised to know how few I really have, considering I've done like 200 plus disc reviews over the years. Chad Guyton, how did you first get introduced to disc golf, and were you hooked right away, or did it take a while to really fall in love with the game? I played my first round ever only a few days after arriving here in Portland, Oregon. After I moved here, my old friend Tyler took me out to Dabney State Park, and we walked around and we played around. I don't even know if I finished it. I was very bad. I did not know how to throw the driver. That was my early inspiration for the videos I make, recommending you guys stay away from drivers when you're first starting out, because I was quite competent throwing catch discs at that point, and I've have a ton of experience throwing around ultimate discs and freestyle discs and stuff, and I was quite accurate, and I thought I knew how to throw a disc, and then out there with like a driver, I think it was a Valkyrie maybe, I had no idea how to throw it. It kept hooking out left on me no matter what I did, because it's such a different power and angle you need to put on most drivers. So it didn't go very well for me. I had a good time, but I think towards the end of the round, I was kind of over it. The back nine at Dabney is through the woods, and since I couldn't really control the disc, I couldn't really navigate them very well. I don't have too many firm memories of that day, to be honest. My memory's not great overall. In certain ways, it kind of fuzzes out on me, and I've had a lot of life experience since I moved here. Yeah, good and bad, I guess. But I was not hooked straight away, but I believe what happened was we played that round. It was like September. That winter for Christmas, my wife got me my first ever 2 discs that were my own, which was a Thumbtrack Birdie and my own DX Valkyrie from the Big Five, kind of like a cheap sporting goods chain out here in Oregon. And I think that next summer, I believe, me and Tyler started really getting into it, where we went and played a lot, and I learned a lot more about the game. And that's when I started geeking out on it, building my first bag. And the rest is history from there. But yeah, it took a little while. There was a little lapse in between my first round, getting my first discs, and when I really got hooked on it. Chad Stevenson, what course, if any, do you dream of playing? Obviously, that you haven't played already. Maple Hill, top of the list, 100%. I would love to get to Maple Hill and play that course, and hope to do so eventually. Other places I'd like to see, I'd like to get to Emporia just to say hello to everybody and see the town, but the courses aren't necessarily like up there for me in terms of like I must play Jones or whatever. I would be interested to play them. I'm sure I would enjoy them just fine, but that's more of like I'd like to get there and just, see the factory and say hello to everybody. I know some of those guys through or most of those guys through, at least through the internet and social media and stuff. I've corresponded with many of them. So it'd be cool to meet them in person a little bit more and see that whole area and just check it out and be part of the GBO vibe and stuff. That would be really fun. I would dig that. Other than that, let's see, other courses that jump out at me. Blue Ribbon Pines looks amazing. I'd like to play the Idlewild course. That looks fantastic. A lot of the wooded ones, I'd like to see Iron Hill. I'm sure it would beat me up, but I'd like to play there. I'd like to play W.R. Jackson or any of the courses at the International Disc Golf Center in the woods there, I believe in Georgia. I would love to check out those tracks. I hear great things about Sandy Point Resort. That's a place I would love to go. But yeah, Maple Hill undoubtedly is at the top of my list. That's the one. That's really the one. This one just says, Chance, congrats on 7K. What is the best disc golf bag you have used? I'm pretty happy with my Prodigy BP1 V2. It's a great bag. It holds a lot of plastic. It's very heavy when it's loaded down, but that's the nature of a large tournament-style bag with water and discs and stuff. It's always going to be pretty heavy. Most of the time I use that bag on my cart, so it doesn't bother me. The weight doesn't bother me at all. I throw it on the easy cart, and I'm good to go. I have carried it as well. I like it a little better when it's not completely loaded down if I'm going to carry it. But over the last few years, I was using the Latitude Core bag, which is a great carrying bag, but has a couple of flaws that I've kind of noticed over time that I'm not super into. Like, I like to be able to stuff a bunch of discs in the top pocket, and that causes the bag to sag a little bit, where the BP1 V2 actually has some steel rods in there that prevent that from happening from the weight of the putter pocket, so I like that quite a bit. But again, you add weight in that instance. But I think overall one of the better bags to carry on the market, and one of the bags I really like if I know I'm going out to a course where I don't need a ton of plastic, or I'm definitely going to be hiking up and down big hills and stuff. I dig the Dynamic Discs Trooper. The Trooper bag's great. I'm not going to say it's like the best bag on the market by any means, but for the money you spend on it, I mean, it's a really great carrying bag that holds plenty of discs. You got a nice water bottle holder, pocket to put your phone, your wallet. It really does what you need it to do. But I'm sure there are much better bags out there on the market, but I don't have a lot in the budget for like really expensive bags. So that's what I use, and it gets the job done just fine. I really like the cart too. The cart is really where it's at for me. And I'm looking into potentially maybe this winter doing a project to build like a small box to just essentially turn my Easy Cart into kind of like a Delta kind of vibe, where it's just a self-contained cart that has a box on it that I could sit on and then put my discs right in there and kind of forego the whole bag on the cart situation. That's something I've been looking into. I think would be kind of fun project to do, so it might happen. But the cart's fantastic, and any course that I can use it on, I will. This one just says, Chris, what got you into making videos? How'd you start out, and what was the purpose for it? I really liked watching in the bag videos. Back in the day, that was one of the few like disc golf related things to really watch, other than a very, very limited amount of like tournament footage, and then the Discraft Clinic videos, which are quite old at this point. There wasn't much on YouTube to watch disc golf related in those days, so I started I made my in the bag video just to try to add to the pool, because I enjoyed watching other people's in the bag videos. That was like the main thing that people watched disc golf related on YouTube, were in the bags. So I think that's why they're such a firmly established part of our game, and why they're always successful at selling plastic and stuff, because they're just one of those things that goes way back. And most of the people who are involved in disc golf now have been around in the kind of post your in the bag video to YouTube era, I guess. But that was how it started. I posted in the bag video, and then I decided to try to make some videos explaining things that I didn't understand when I started, in the hopes of passing that information on to other people. And that's why it's so rewarding for me, and what I talked about in the intro, to have that feedback that was successful and that worked. It's really awesome, because that was why. And in terms of how I started out, I had a really cheap digital camera. That's why if you watch some of my older videos, there's like a whirring sound. I believe it's like the sound of the actual processor in this digital camera would be picked up by the mic. So it has this horrible like wee sound throughout the whole video. It was a digital still camera that had a video mode on it. That's what I used for a while. And then I got like a Sony Bloggie on Craigslist for like literally $40, $35 maybe. That's the kind of equipment we're talking about. And in terms of now, my good camera now that I've used for the last couple of years was $100. I think I paid $110 on Craigslist for this camera. So I am living proof that you don't need to have basically any money to have like a successful, or reasonably, not even successful, but to make an impact. You know, you can get your name out there. Everybody listening to this probably has a cell phone that's capable of producing video that's much better than the video I was able to put out for several years of making this channel and putting out videos. So if you want to try it, give it a shot. And if people like your message and what you're putting out there, you can build it slowly from there. Eventually, I would love to get a nicer camera, but for $120, this little Sony Handycam, what is it? Yeah, Handycam HDR XR150 does a pretty good job. I mean, it does fine for me. I think it's good enough. Hopefully, we'll upgrade it eventually, but I love my little camera, and it's done a great job for me. Colin Wendt asks, what is the best way you have found to practice putting? I have not found any ways to practice putting. I don't really do that. I should do that. But if I had any advice for that, based on things I have done in the past, is just practicing close. So if I'm warming up putting for the rare tournament round that I play, or just before a good round and there's a practice basket there, Dabney, like at Dabney State Park, there's a practice basket right next to hole one. And often there's a little line there, so it's a great way to kind of kill some time before you're able to tee off. I practice in close, and I practice making putts. I don't really practice 40, 50 footers. I don't even really practice edge of the circle. You know, I'm within 25, and I'm just trying to hit dead center exactly the way I want, because I feel like that's your best bet, is practicing putts that you're making, because it's all about confidence. So if you're making half of them, you're not going to be very confident from that. But if you're making most of them, that's good. And if you're warming up before you go out for a round, I recommend, if you say you hit a few in a row, like you have 2-3 practice putters that you're using to warm up, you hit all 3, you pick them out, you hit all 3 again. Maybe I start the round then, just riding that wave of like, okay, I'm just jamming putts, and just try to carry that vibe into the round. That's about as good as I can give you there. I'm not like, I have a practice basket, I have a garage. Occasionally I will go take it out and practice and just kind of putt and mess around, but I don't really have a routine or a game or anything that I do, to be honest. I have had fun in the past playing horse, like in a backyard or something like that. That's a great way to work on putting and have a little bit of pressure involved with it, which is definitely helpful as well. All right, pushing forward, I'm going to try to push through the rest of this page before my voice completely gives out on me, and then we'll move on, and I will finish out the rest of the questions in future episodes. I have quite a few left to go, so where was I here? Craig Matheson, what brand would you credit with having the best overall lineup of plastics? Oh man, that's a tough one. I think that's kind of a coin toss between Discraft, Latitude, and Innova. From my perspective, I think they're making the best stuff out there, those 3 brands. And personal preference for me, probably Latitude. I really like the Lucid Opto blends. I like the Goldline Fusion blend feel. I think those are great. Their putter plastics are really nice and grippy, like the Zero Soft, Zero Medium. I like all of that stuff quite a bit, but I also really love the Z Plastic, Big Z Plastic, ESP, Jawbreaker, Pro D, all the stuff from Discraft as well. I honestly think between those three main manufacturers, I think they're all making phenomenal plastic. And to say who has the best, I think it's going to come down to a personal preference. I don't think it's quantifiable enough to say, yes, this company makes the best plastic. And I think there's going to be some slight variations and kind of a little bit of preference involved in there, but they're making phenomenal stuff for sure, and they're constantly improving and changing it as well. Kurt Alfrecht says, I'd like to see a video testing all manufacturers' fastest drivers and putters. Okay, that'd be a tough undertaking. I need a lot of plastic for that, but could be something that could happen. I'm definitely looking to do more comparison videos. I'm just trying to kind of get as caught up as I can throughout like the summer months, and then moving into the fall with my reviews that I have so many different discs that people have sent me. I really need to put a freeze on taking in any more discs for a little while for sure, especially now that I just got this 6-pack from Yikun. That's really pushed me up over the edge. I just got a link, a Discmania link from the Disc Golf Depot to review, so I got a lot of work to do on that, but I would like to do that. I have some discs laying around to do that sort of thing, more of comparing discs that are very similar to one another from multiple manufacturers. Curtis Smeeding asks, what is the best bag for the least amount of money? Best bang for your buck? We just talked about it, and there's not even a question in my mind. It's the Dynamic Discs Trooper, $39.99. You're not going to beat it. This bag is absolutely phenomenal for that price. It holds plenty of plastic. You got plenty of room to throw your wallet or your keys and cell phone, some snacks, some towels in there. I believe on the new edition they put some towel D-rings that you can clip towels to. That's a great touch. And they added one more pocket. Also beautiful. Holds plenty of plastic. It's lightweight. It's not the biggest bag, but for the money, you're really not going to beat it. I really like my Prodigy BP1 V2 for the money I paid for that bag. Very, very reasonable price for a full-size tournament bag. Like if you want a big bag with all the bells and whistles that can hold a lot of plastic, that bag is fantastic. You can check it out on my channel here. But in terms of just dollar for dollar, what's the best bag out there? I think that the Trooper is the hands-down favorite. All right. Dan Cox, T-pad. What are the rules about stepping over the pad or having toes hanging over as a throw is made? I believe if the T-pad is raised, right, and you're throwing it, as long as you're not stepping down off of it, as the disc is being released, you're totally fine. Obviously, you can throw the disc and then finish off of the T-pad. That's also fine. The problem comes in, and we saw this at the Masters Cup with Ricky Wysocki getting called on a foot fault. That was beyond absurd to me. They were playing on a T-pad that was basically just a sidewalk with a line painted on it, and he stepped like on the line or a couple inches in front of the line or something like that, and that's considered a foot fault. But if it was an actual proper disc golf T-pad that they were playing on, the issue is completely non-existent because he wouldn't be stepping off of the edge of the T-pad. When you're playing on a perfectly flat surface like that all the way, it's pretty easy to step a little bit far. And did it have any effect on the throw? Like, of course not. The whole thing was preposterous to me. So give us actual T-pads and it completely mitigates the problem. All these golf courses that, just spray paint a line on the sidewalk and call that the T-pad, I think is just really cheesy. I'm not a fan of that. But yeah, if you throw in like your toes are hanging off the edge, I think you're fine. I don't think there's any problem with that. I think it comes in when you're making contact with the ground beyond the T-pad. So if you were to like somehow step off, if your T-pad is flush with the ground and you're stepping over the edge and your foot is touching the ground beyond the T-pad before the disc is released, that would be a foot fault, from what I understand. I could be wrong on that. I'm not exactly sure. Darren Dodson, your opinion on 2019 Disc of the Year. I know Andy liked the Tiger Warrior. That's his favorite disc so far this year. Hard for me to say. There's definitely been some interesting ones that I've enjoyed testing. I don't know. I'm going to defer on that one until the end of 2019. I'll give you guys like my top 5 or top 3 discs of the year. Once we wrap up the year and I look back on the discs I've reviewed over the year, I'd have to do a little bit more investigation. I can't really think off the top of my head exactly which one would be it. There's probably a clear answer for me, but it's not popping up into my head right now. So stay tuned for that. I'll do a separate video on that when the time comes. David Brewster, thank you for growing the sport through your channel. I've been watching since you started. Always look forward to your uploads so far. Thank you so much, David. Appreciate your support. David Jagernoth. Tip for getting more distance from mid-ranges. Basically the same things apply. You probably want to give a mid-range and a putter a little bit more height than a driver to allow that glide to kick in, because it's not going to fly with as much speed and cut through the air as a driver. It's not spinning quite as fast. So with a mid-range, you want to give it a little bit more air to get a little bit more flight out of it. I also tend to like to throw mid-ranges like my Gobi that I can start on a little hyzer and let them pop up flat and straight and float from there. But other than that, all the same things apply to getting more distance from any disc, having a nice smooth reach back and pull through, pulling in tight to your body, transferring your weight, all those sort of things. Okay, this one just says, Derek, who in your opinion has the better arsenal in 2019? Innova Rick or Discraft Paul? How does each player's bag line up with what you predicted last year? Any major surprises? Thanks for all you do, DGN. Here's to another 7K. Thank you. I don't know. Ricky has more access to more molds, I'd say. The Innova lineup is gigantic, but Paul can throw all of the Discraft lineup and the DGA molds that Discraft produces as well. So there's definitely plenty of options in there. I like Discraft plastic better personally. It's just a personal preference thing. So I would say if I had to choose between one or the other, I would probably rather be throwing what Paul's has available to him, just based on the fact that I'm a big Discraft supporter and have been since day one, going way back with my channel and stuff. But I think they both have more than enough tools to put together a bag to be successful. And I think the same for anybody from any manufacturer. If you're playing for any of the major manufacturers, Innova, Discmania, Prodigy, any of those brands, Discraft, obviously, Latitude, DD, all those people on those different companies, different teams, have plenty of plastic to build a bag, and it shouldn't be any detriment really at all. Things that surprise me, I think the pig is a little surprising. I did not call the pig for Ricky, but he's obviously doing super well with it. The Ricky Pig is not a new mold, but is definitely one of the better discs I've tested this year. I really enjoyed that one. I think it's a solid disc and a great release. Other than that, not so much. Rick's throwing T-Birds and Rocks and Destroyers, Casey AVRs, which I called for sure. All of that seemed pretty obvious. The Max maybe a little bit surprising. He's throwing Maxes, I think. Champion Max. I didn't necessarily see that coming. Paul, I'm surprised he's not throwing the Buzz OS. That's a little strange for me. I guess I couldn't have predicted that, the Luna was going to be his putter because we didn't know that was coming out yet. I think it's a little odd that he's throwing the Onyx and the Vulture. I think that might change. I think he might just throw Onyx after that. After a certain period of time, he might switch over. Paul's tried a bunch of different overstable fairways. He's throwing a Raptor now. I don't know if he's still throwing Predators. He's changed around a decent amount already, so I'm not really sure how that fully aligns with my predictions. Yeah, it's been interesting though to see how it goes, and obviously the Discraft Plastic has not been any hindrance to Paul, who is now once again the highest rated player of all time, setting a new record for the highest rated player in history as of today. So yeah, clearly he's doing quite well. Derek Dean, do you think team sponsorships should be more exclusive? I feel like everyone that is anyone and not even a very well-known player are sponsored takes away from the prestige of being sponsored. For example, Nike only has a select few golfers that really get behind. They really get behind to sponsor, and it is a big deal to be sponsored by them. Yes, I do. I think there's too many players on all these teams. I think it should be a little bit more difficult to acquire a team sponsorship. Like I have sponsors, but they're more of a promotional sponsor. To be on a team as a player, I think I think there should be a little bit more difficult to acquire those sort of thing. I definitely agree with you there. If that's what you're saying, I do think that. So I don't know what those actual stipulations would be. That's very subjective, obviously, but I do think that it makes it a little bit kind of washed out when we see so many different players that are part of these teams, and a lot of them are just like local players that nobody really knows. I don't begrudge these people having the support from sponsors, and that's great. And if the sponsor feels as though they're worth having on the team and worth giving plastic or whatever the arrangement is, that's perfectly fine. But yeah, I think it should probably mean a little more to be sponsored by a major manufacturer, and I think it should be a little bit more difficult to acquire those sponsorships. And I think that's something we might see over time. I think a lot of companies have noticed that just sponsoring a huge number of players is really not nearly as effective as sponsoring one or two really good players. So we'll see how that adjusts over time. Okay, finally for this episode. God, before I die, my throat is about to give out. DJ Cooper, do you have a regular bag of discs that you normally use, or do you switch it up often? Also, how many discs do you take out onto the course? You can watch my in the bag video, my most recent in the bag video from summer 2019. I will show you guys basically what I carry on a per round basis. I do have discs that are always with me, and then some that aren't always with me, and I will alter the amount and the type of discs I have based on the course. So if I'm going out to a long open course, something like Milo, that's much longer shots off of the tee, I'm more likely to have more drivers in there and not nearly as many throwing putters. If I'm going out to a short technical course like Horning's Hideout or Stubbs Stewart, I'm very likely to have my full mid-range lineup in there, which is 3 Gobies, a Compass, and then at least 1 overstable mid-range in there. And I will almost certainly put in a couple of extra throwing putters, probably maybe an extra Caltrup for throwing, or another soft magnet for throwing, because I like to have at least 2 of those when I'm playing a course that I know I'm going to be throwing them off the tee a lot, in case I lose one, because they're a very crucial disc for me to throw approaches with as well. So yeah, I have like a lot of discs that are always with me. I have a full good core of my bag, and then I will kind of change it up. If I know I'm going out on a windy day, I'm likely to have some more overstable variations of some of the discs I like. that sort of thing. So yeah, I do adjust it based on course conditions, where I'm going, and that sort of thing. But I do have a core of that. And if you want to see how many, I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head, just go check my in the bag video. That'll show you basically my full bag setup, at least as it was last month. All right, that's it for this episode. Probably went pretty long, but that's okay. I still have many questions. I'm only still in the D's here of the alphabet, so I still have a lot of questions to go. But stay tuned for future episodes, and I will check you all very soon. Cheers.